shortcuts to good government. So it's, good governance is reacting more than to individual concerns. Well, I won't go into my sermon, but suffice it to say that you can have good government with any kind of professional background, any kind of a Republican, Democrat, or liberal, conservative, pro-development, or not, but you have to have a broad view of what your charge is. I'm not knowledgeable about political campaigns, except as having worked around them all these years. But I think there's more to it than just money, and that's the theme that it seems to be most consistent here. It's about ongoing effort. It's about developing candidates ahead of time, or ahead of election season. It's about building coalitions of cross-interest groups. It's about fostering trusting relationships, and so many other things. And this proposal doesn't deal specifically with those kinds of things. I'm not nearly as interesting as Dan, but these are points that I really believe and I've experienced. They aren't theory. I've actually seen them happen. The National Civic League is an organization formed in 1894 to foster good government. Theodore Roosevelt was one of its founders. They recommend a model city charter. They prefer at-large elections. Here's what they have to say about single-member districts. The single-member district system has drawbacks. An inherent problem is that district elected members will subordinate citywide concerns to parochial problems. Single-member district systems also have the potential for the classic problem of ball rolling or vote swapping, which is absolutely what I have observed in the two systems that I've worked in. My other concern is that staff takes a system-wide concern, a system-wide point of view. It's hard enough to work for 5 different personalities with different agendas. It is inconceivable to try to balance those when each of them is in a tug-of-war with the others over their district concerns. And I have watched that time and again, and that's where you get into that long rolling and vote swapping. And it isn't pretty at all. Let me quickly wrap up, since I think I deserve more time than Dan, because there are more reasons to be against it than there are for it.
Less time is short.
Finish what you want.
Dan's counting on me stepping in, I think. But this system has been tried before in Sarasota County. It really didn't have a fair chance. It wasn't in long enough, and I don't want to pretend that it was a failure. But it passed narrowly in 1992. In 1994, the voters reversed it because they saw the campaign that was unfolding then about a very single issue of concern to that district, Siesta Key Sand. It was a temporary issue, transition. But the other people in the county, the rest of the county, they wanted to hear more about taxes, stormwater, public safety, and other concerns. That campaign focused on one issue, a narrow issue, a temporary issue. And I'm afraid that that's what happens so often in these. And frankly, if there isn't a hot issue locally, somebody's going to make one up in order to win the district election. This proposal would not change anything about campaign finance, the relationships between business interests and commissioners, how decisions are made, how districts are drawn, but it will erode the integrity of and the professionalism of staff work, and it will change the public discourse about larger issues. In my view, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. My opposition is twofold. First of all, I don't believe it will cure the problems it seeks to change. And secondly, it will create new problems with unintended consequences, resulting in poor outcomes.
Would you like to address this?
Sure would. I don't know what some organization may have said about municipal elections, but I can tell you that countywide elections are not the norm in Florida for counties of any size. We're the 14th largest county out of 67. And of the 40 Florida counties with countywide elections, all but 4 are smaller than Sarasota County. And of the 13 counties larger than Sarasota County, only 4 have countywide elections. So you just don't do it in counties as big as us. And that makes sense because it's just too big of an electorate for one county commissioner to reach out and do constituent service for, to get to know, and most importantly, when it comes to election time, to be responsive to the interests of those various constituencies. I was there too in 1994 when single-member districts were repealed. And let me tell you what happened. They were adopted in 1992. There were 2 county commissioners up in that election, and one was an unopposed incumbent. The other, Jack O'Neill, won because he was very popular on CSTP. And yes, protecting the sands of CSTP was important to him and to his constituents, but he stood for a lot more. And across the board, he was independent of developers. I liked the way he voted. I was an advocate for growth control back then. But the developers didn't like it. So I was sitting in the county commission chambers one day when the spokesman for the Chamber of Commerce came up. Again, they were a very active lobbying group for development interests. Asked the county commissioners to put repeal on the ballot. It took thousands of signatures to get it passed, to get it on the ballot. Just one vote of the county commission to put it up for repeal. They formed a pact, just like they're doing today, to defeat single-member districts. Spent large amounts of money for that time, and vilified it with things that weren't true and got it repealed. I don't recall any discussion about let's repeal single-member districts because we're talking too much about CSTP sand. It was the developers in a deceptive campaign persuaded the voters to back away from it. And I appreciate John's acknowledgement that it was not a failure, because that's what the developers are trying to tell people. That's why it was repealed. But it wasn't given a chance. But we have a chance today to get it back. And to once again, as we did in 1992, elect at least 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 county commissioners who are independent of the developers for the change, and instead are responsive to the neighborhoods in the district where they live. That's extremely important. There are a lot of other points to touch on. I'll be looking forward to questions from you or others.
Go ahead, do your
Other points. Okay, very good. And John minimizes the importance of money. There are other things a candidate can do. Candidate can go build coalitions, start working early for election to the county commission. But it's about money. Maybe it wasn't back in the 90s as much when you could get elected to the county commission on $30,000 or $40,000. But it is today. Because money at the national level, state level, local level has become such a huge part of politics, more than even before. And Lourdes Ramirez, good friend of a lot of us, did all the things that John recommended for a candidate to get elected. She started early after her first defeat and worked for 4 long years for the next election, got really active in the Republican Party, built coalitions, started as early as anybody could, worked very hard, actually raised some money, but was overwhelmed by the fact that she could not spend enough to reach voters throughout the entire county. Had she spent those tens of thousands of dollars that she had and campaign just on Siesta Key and the inland area joining Siesta Key into the south, I think she would have had a darn good chance of winning. The developers would have poured tons of money into that campaign as well, we're not kidding ourselves, but she could have at least afforded to get out her message. And those neighborhoods and door-to-door campaigning would have again become very important in terms of the election of a candidate. So if you believe in neighborhood power, if you believe in people power, if you're offended by the fact that the big developer money are choosing our candidates for county commission, something I could spend some time talking about, you don't get to run, quote unquote, unless you're anointed by Pat Neal and Benderson and Baruch and the rest. And then, I mean, why would they do it if it didn't work to get things for them? Why would they spend tens of thousands of dollars if they didn't get millions in return? Why would they keep doing it election after election if it didn't have the intended result? And it does. Our system is corrupt to the core. Those are strong words, but they're intended and they're delivered. And this may not be the cure-all, but it's a great step in the right direction. Let's give it a chance. It wasn't given a chance in the early 1990s because the developers were able to take it away from you. But get it back. Let's try something different, because what we have now is not working very well at all.
That's me. That's good. The only thing I'd like to say about, and again, this is not my area. Oh, yeah. This is not my area of specialization, but I just would like to, those evil developers are not going to go away. And I've never seen a campaign that didn't try to raise as much money as it could, whether it's a single-member district or whether it's at large. It never stops when it gets enough. It's always trying to get more, and frankly, what's going to happen if this were to pass is that it allows everybody to concentrate their resources in a district. And that the folks that Dan is concerned about having undue influence will simply have more leverage. Now, it's a different kind of campaigning, but there's still 500 square miles in this county. There's still 80,000 people in any particular district, so it's not neighbor-to-neighbor conversation. And you're going to wind up, frankly, with some of the same dynamics. My observation in the two counties that I've worked with is that business interests, more than only developers, business interests are just as involved in building relationships with the people that are on the governing body. They continue to have issues, and they build actually good relationships. They actually have quite a bit of influence. So I don't think this is going to change that. And my concern is not only do I feel that it will not correct the problems that Dan's referring to, but I believe that it will have so many unintended consequences on how government operates and will change the whole dynamic of the debate. Yes.
I do have a question here. The question is, don't we have single-member districts for state legislature? I'm not going to have the panel members discuss that because...
That's a good question, Kathy. I'd like to...
Please, well, I have the floor. Hold on. Okay. The reason I'm not going to do that is that the legislature is a bicameral governing body. You may vote for one representative, but you also vote for a senator. So it isn't a parallel to the county government as far as the way the government runs.
I think it is, and I appreciate you not debating it. Let me say something. I've talked to just about every member of the Kona board, one I could not get hold of. They all wish that Kona would endorse and work for single-member districts. I've been talking to Coffee for months now about that. For some reason, she singularly is reluctant about single-member districts. And I think that's regrettable for this organization. I do think it's regrettable, Coffee, that you would enter into this debate.
I really object to your
well-
going into this kind of a discussion in a meeting where you're a panel member, and this is a personal issue.
What's going on I'm talking about? But let me tell you why you're wrong, Coffee, on that point. And I respect you a lot. You're a friend, but
Dan, you do not know what my position is on this. And
had
as
discussions.
far as I'm concerned, this is inappropriate for this
please
meeting.
stop engaging in
And
the
I
debate.
object to your doing that.
Let me tell you why you're wrong, with all respect, about the question that was asked. The legislature is elected by single
I'm going
member
to go ahead,
districts.
I'm going to go ahead and.
And
ask
they
this
don't
other
fight among
question.
each other for their turf. They work together. They spread the
This
wealth
is
throughout.
absurd to do
It is
this,
absurd,
Dan.
Coffee. I wish you'd run a neutral forum. That's all I'm asking.
Did you write up your question? In the meantime, I would like to go ahead and ask John to address another point, if you would please.
Why don't we talk about finances as to what the potential is? Would you want to address this issue as to whether this is relevant to the single member
Oh, I-
districts?
Oh, I can't talk about it, but he can?
I have no problem.
You went ahead and plowed through on it. How do you
You
expect?
cut me
the-
off, you didn't let me finish. But go ahead. It's your show, you run it however you want to.
Now, we'll wait for the next question.
It's for John.
Thank you. The question is, what is your response to the plan to put a 5-story hospital in a residential area? How do you see that as far as single-member districts?
Well, I think if we have a representative, who live in that area, they would not be a problem. And in fact, I'll give you a case in point.
Let me-
With respect to the dealership that I talked about earlier, being right on the corner of where the roundabout is. Sir, don't shrug your shoulders. Do you drive that roundabout? Do you know where I'm talking about? I mean, you kind of shrug your shoulders like, so what? So my question to you, yeah, Nancy Dieters, who's the chairperson, did vote against it, okay? She said, well, we don't need any more dealerships. But I think she was also saying, I kind of live in that neighborhood. And I know the traffic there. I'm aware of what happens every day. I'm aware of the danger that goes on. So I guess I want to hear John justify, why the hospital's going there. If it's not money, what is it?
Well, you got me, because I know very little about that particular development or
Well,
that.
that's the point that Mr. Lobeck is making, that unless you live in the neighborhood, if you live up near Bradenton, in that area, you're not going to know about the traffic down there, sir.
If I may, I won't address that particular development proposal, but let me tell you my observation in 10 years that I've worked in local government. And I'll use another example. A friend of mine who's concerned about celery fields talked about the fact that the district commissioner for that area voted in favor of the proposal that was defeated. But had we had single-member districts, would certainly have voted against, perhaps. But what I've seen happen time and again is you have one commissioner that cares intensely about what the neighbors think, and you have 4 that don't care at all. And you wind up then, and whatever the numbers are, whether it's a 7-member body, a 9-member body, it doesn't matter, you'll have the one who does. And frankly, I hate to be this crass about it, but many times they'll say to their colleagues, I have to vote against it, you vote out if you want. which basically lets them all go. Now, it's either that or it's warfare. Don't mess with my district. I'm against it, so you've got to be against it. Either way, Americans get lost. And so I think that is one of the serious deficiencies of a single-member district system is, you're right, the district commissioner will probably, if the neighbors were really riled up, would probably be against it. But the person that lives in DeSoto Acres and the person that lives in Sarasota and elsewhere, why would they be concerned? It's not their district. And they aren't always going to just vote what you think might be the enlightened point of view. They're going to vote with other people that are talking to them too, like proponents of the proposal. So I've seen it, it happens, and that's my answer to how those things frequently unfold.
You want to address that?
Thank you for letting me catch. There was a debate last week on single-member districts that the Herald Tribune conducted. And right after the forum, somebody came up to me and to Kendra Boots, the head of our group, and said, bless you for working for single-member districts. We had those up north where I lived, and it was the only thing that protected our neighborhoods. Because what it ended up doing, we had a discussion about it, it elected people that cared about neighborhoods instead of electing people that were beholden to big developer money. So you get somebody, instead of Mike Moran, who couldn't care less about neighborhoods, who votes for a concrete crushing plant next to his residents' homes and environmental sanctions, voting that way. You have Alan Mayo, who represents Siesta Key, but votes for a big developer, Gary Van Pothacross, to allow him to have higher building heights and lesser sidewalks for his hotel development against a room packed with Siesta Key people that were angry about the proposal. And I could give you examples as to other things.
All right.
What single-member districts does is change the whole ethos of public service on the county commission. If you get good candidates, and that's going to be the other task, and they're single-member districts or county, that it's easier to get good candidates for single-member districts so they have a chance to get elected. It also takes only 1/5 as many petitions to get on the ballot in their single-member districts. So don't discount the fact that if we have a better system, you're going to have better candidates, you're going to have better commissioners, you're going to have better votes for each and every neighborhood together. And just to address this idea of commissioners fighting among each other, Nora Patterson, who was John's debating mate in Tiger Bay on this, pleasantly surprised me. She acknowledged that whether we have countywide elections or single-member districts, you're going to have county commissioners who are going to want to work together for the county. And to instead insist there is a parallel with the state legislature, no matter what you're hearing from the chair. In that case, you don't have Orlando and Miami and Fort Lauderdale all ganging up and taking all the tax money for things in their districts. It's the nature of a collegial body to be collegial. And to say, okay, you have a concern, I have a concern, let's work on yours, please work on mine. That's how it works. 5 of the 7 county commissioners in Manatee County are elected in single-member districts. Have you read anything in the paper about them being at each other with knives over the disparate concerns of their districts? I mean, no. This is the standard form in counties of our size. And it's necessary to avoid the excessive domination of unbridled cash in deciding who gets to run for county commission and who gets to be elected.
The next question is, please explain vote swap. Also in New Jersey, there are in each town 5 single member and 2 at large. How about that?
Now, this is one of the things Coffee told me I don't think in confidence, that she prefers that to single-member districts. Now, I'm giving you credit. I'm giving you credit, Coffee.
Please stay off of the personal level for
All
this.
right. But my response at that time and my response to the question is this. That's not on the ballot. You don't have a choice between a mixed system, all countywide elections, or single-member districts. It probably will never be on the ballot, particularly if the county commission gets its way and gets a positive vote for their charter amendment to make it nearly impossible to do charter amendments in the future by doubling to 10% the petitions you have to gather. So it's not a choice. You have a clear choice between two things: today's corrupt system of countywide elections or pure single-member districts, which to me is better than a mixed system because you don't have any commissioners elected by the excessive dominance of developer money by running countywide. But it's a false choice to suggest, though, that would be better than single-member districts, because it's not a choice. It's not on the ballot. It's not something to be decided. Just decide, do we want to keep with what we have now, and we know that's not working, or do we want to try something better? That being the one thing that is on the ballot, that's single-member districts.
The main question is the vote swapping.
And
The
we can address
vote
that.
swapping.
Can you address that?
Yeah, John raised that too, and it deserves to be addressed. Any deliberative body is going to have what you might characterize as vote swapping. And I described it in a benign sense a moment ago. You know, I know this is of concern to you. This is of concern to me. I'll be very open to doing what you want unless I see a real good reason not to. If you'll be open to doing what I want unless you see a real good reason not to. It's a good positive thing about a representative democracy, about a republic. I don't vilify that process. I think it can lead to really good collaborative governance.
Can you address that too?
I can try.
Yours was a negative, Dan's is a positive, so I see the difference.
Yeah, oh, I think the dysfunction that comes from because it winds up being about that swap and not about the merits of whatever that proposal is. It might be a development proposal, it might be something else that's going on within a district. And so the motives for people, for elected officials, are not always about the merits. It may be somebody's political enemy that's trying to get something done, and that person wants to stick it to them. I hate to be crass, but it happens. And so I think that you never know exactly why somebody is for or against something, and you never know exactly what has been exchanged for that. So it doesn't work, in my view, to the interest of the merits of the proposal, whatever the constraining laws are for proposals. Much of this has to do, and the proponents have shaped it this way, to do with land development issues, growth and land development. But there's so much more to your county government, your fire department, your other activities of county government that don't have to do with growth and development. And it permeates this vote swapping and these issues, the dysfunctions permeate all